The Sea of Green method is a growing technique. Using this method can even yield you a lot more on your indoor grows once you get the right genetics and the hang of it, as well as giving you a normal schedule. I'll tell you how it all works. The Sea of Green involves growing a large number of small plants instead of a small number of large plants. This method is used to cut down your veg time to between 2 to 4 weeks and potentially increase your yields. Hey, I'm Scott, one of the owners of Harvest Helper. I was introduced to this method about 20 years ago from a friend, and it completely changed the way I think about growing indoors. This method can work for you whether you just have a couple grow tents or if you are growing in a large warehouse. You can even use this method to have a perpetual harvest every 2 weeks. This allows you to have more of a regular harvesting schedule instead of harvesting all at once. The Sea of Green is done by reducing the vegetation time to around 2 to 4 weeks and then throwing your plants straight into flower. The plants are grown in a dense canopy which resembles a sea of green, which is where the name comes from. The idea is to grow the plants horizontally uniform instead of growing vertically. This is done by taking the plants from what's known as a clone table and putting them straight into the flowering cycle on the hydro table. This is so that they are able to soak up all the lighting, nutrients, and water that they need. This flowering cycle is initiated by 12 hours of light followed by 12 hours of absolute darkness. This will let the plants know that the days have gotten shorter and it is time to start flowering. You will still have to factor in the time it takes for your clones that are vegging. This is done in a separate space on your clone table so that it doesn't slow down your flowering room. It is really important to keep your flowering room always flowering to keep this rhythm going for your harvests. The Sea of Green method in production has several advantages. One of the main advantages is the high yield that is produced. The Sea of Green method allows for the maximum use of space and resources, which results in a high yield per unit area. This means that the plants can be harvested more often, resulting in a quicker turnaround time and a higher profit margin. Sea of Green also reduces the amount of plant material you have to trim off of your plants. Spread out your chores. The Sea of Green method allows you to spread out your drying, curing, and trimming to a regular basis instead of all at once every 4 months. You can instead have a normal schedule of doing it every day or once a week, for instance. Uniform distribution of light. Another advantage of the S.O.G method is in production the uniform distribution of light. The flat canopy ensures that all the plants receive the same amount of light, which is essential for the proper growth and development of the plants. The uniform distribution of light also results in a higher yield per unit area. Now let's talk about a few disadvantages of the Sea of Green method. The Sea of Green method usually utilizes a hydroponic system, which is more expensive than traditional soil-based systems. The high density planting also requires more labor, which increases the cost of production, as well as a lot more growing mediums or small soil pots for each small plant. Plant count. The Sea of Green greatly increases your number of plants and can create a lot of work and inventory. Also, if you have a regulatory agency that has a plant count for you that you have to stick to, this can make you go over your allowed amount of plants. Another disadvantage can be the time it takes to routinely clean your flood tables and hydroponic equipment. Also, if you are new to growing, there is a natural buffer that soil provides to protect plants from being over-fertilized. Using the Sea of Green method will put you on a path of growing hydroponically, so make sure you're ready to make that leap first as well if you are growing from soil. You can still do this method growing from soil, but you will have to come up with a good way to water so many plants. Whereas the hydroponic tables hold a few inches of water on the surface for your plants to continuously feed on. Does this work well for indoor growing? Plants don't get very large indoors anyways, and if plant numbers don't matter to you, then this could be the perfect way to set up your indoor grow. The idea behind the Sea of Green isn't meant to yield large numbers per plant, but to yield small numbers with hundreds or thousands of plants. This creates the multiple effect that is similar to hitting a small win on a slot machine, but then having it multiplied hundreds or thousands of times. My final thoughts are that this is a great method for anyone who wants to grow indoors to cut down the time between harvesting and maybe even increase your yield sizes. Well, we let you know what we think about this method, but tell us your thoughts. We want to hear them in the comments below. Also, please subscribe and like this video if you found this information useful. It helps support the channel to make more videos just like this. Thanks for watching and have a smoking day.